Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Poetry Foundation's virtual open door reading. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Alex, and I am the Building and Events Manager at the Poetry Foundation. I am a white cisgender man. I have blonde hair and blue eyes and glasses. I'm wearing a black and white striped shirt, and I have a gold wall behind me that has a lamp on it and a red couch. And I'm in Chicago, so it's very stormy outside. So I hope that my internet connection will stand up to the test tonight. But we are going to have all the best thoughts in mind. Before we begin, we want to recognize that the Poetry Foundation building is situated on the occupied original homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa nations. Indigenous people continue to live here today, and Chicago is home to one of the largest Indigenous communities in the United States.
Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Noah, and I am the event assistant at the Poetry Foundation. I am a white, non-binary trans femme who uses they, them pronouns. A short visual description of myself. Tonight I am wearing a tangerine dress and a single blue earring, and behind me is a curtain with eyes on it.
We are trying to make tonight a relaxed virtual space. Feel free to do whatever you need to do for your body and your mind to be more comfortable. Let's all take a second now to make ourselves 10% more comfortable. And now, I'd like to introduce our first reader, Suzanne Buffam. Suzanne Buffam earned an MA in English Literature from Concordia University in Montreal and an MFA in Poetry from the Iowa Writers Workshop. She is the author of 3 collections of poetry, most recently A Pillow Book, which was named one of the 10 best poetry books of 2016 by the New York Times. Her other books are The Irrationalist, a finalist for the 2011 Griffin Poetry Prize, and Past Imperfect, winner of Canada's 2006 Gerald Lampert Award. Her work has been supported by fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Jeanette Hyen Ballard Writers Trust, and the Canada Council for the Arts. She has taught creative writing at the Iowa Writers Workshop, the University of Chicago, and Columbia College Chicago, and frequently serves as a mentor in the University of Guelph's MFA Summer Mentorship Program in Guelph, Ontario. She has lived in Chicago since 2003. And now I'd like to let Suzanne take it away.
Thank you, Alex and Noah. And thanks everyone at the Poetry Foundation for hosting this event. The Open Door Series is one of my favorite things you do. And I'm delighted to be part of it and to have my student, Fatima Eldigair, here as well. And thanks to everyone who's joined us from wherever you happen to be tonight. My name is Suzanne Buffam, and I'm actually joining you from the west coast of Canada, where I grew up. For anyone who may be having trouble seeing me on your screen, picture a middle-aged white woman in glasses and a black shirt with a newly bobbed haircut that my 11-year-old daughter recently said makes me look like an old librarian, but in a good way. You'll probably hear all that in my poems. For the past few years, I've had trouble writing much in the face of world events, and I've only recently started writing again, having realized that for me, the way forward is to start with small, minor details, daily events that I hope to open onto larger concerns. So tonight I'll be reading 4 short-ish, newish prose pieces that attend to minutiae of daily life, the persistence of which in the face of global catastrophe, I've begun to see as a literary problem of its own. So the first piece I will read is called Baby on Board. I'm not sure how I feel about these signs I keep seeing on the expressway today. I saw at least 3 before reaching the tunnel, and now I'm stuck in traffic behind another. As the frequent chauffeur for a baby myself, I understand this cautionary impulse, but I can't help but wonder. Is a baby on board more precious than a 38-year-old woman on board? It's a good deal more innocent. I can't argue with that. It hasn't told a single lie in its life, let alone failed to safely dispose of spent batteries or toxic paint, cheated, however inadvertently, on its taxes, stolen office supplies from its employer, or spat up red wine all over a vintage mohair blanket in its best friend's fiance's parents' ski lodge on New Year's Eve. On the other hand, most 38-year-old women I know have done at least some good in the world and may in fact be in the process of doing more good at this moment, researching Lyme disease, for example, or bringing a class action suit against a multinational petroleum conglomerate, or even just sitting in traffic on the expressway en route to a low-level job whose meager paychecks contribute to the general health of the economy and possibly even to a registered charity or two at year's end. Whereas a baby, so feeble it can barely grasp a Cheerio, has done no good for anyone. In some cultures, a baby isn't even given a name until its 5th birthday. It could drop dead at any moment from cholera or malaria or schistosomiasis. It could choke on a kernel of corn. It could crawl after a goat beyond the village perimeter, never to be seen again. It is the elders in those cultures who are treated as a precious resource, and the babies who must prove their worthiness to exist. Here, we are encouraged to attach ourselves as early as possible, sometimes as early as conception itself. But where's the line? I can't help but wonder. At what point exactly does a baby in this culture turn once and for all into a plain old go ahead and plow into me woman like me? And next, I will read A Public Bench. In loving memory of John Scott Stephen, 1920 to 1996, and Audrey Blanche Stephen, 1925 to 2009, reads a small black plaque in need of new paint on the backrest. I like to think of it as my bench, but of course, it does not belong to me. If this bench belongs to anyone, surely it belongs to the Stephens, or else to the city, which retains several year-round part-time employees to combat the pigeons, vandals, sea spray, and winter storms, and which also maintains memorial picnic tables, memorial flower planters, and memorial public drinking fountains at diminishing intervals along this scenic coastal shore, settled by the British in the 19th century, after several hundred years of continuous habitation by the Coast Salish people of the Songhees First Nation, who faced their homes into the wind and laid their dead away in trees between the tide line and the meadows, the better to enjoy the bounty of the landscape and the nearby Salish Sea, following in turn the Paleolithic footsteps that trailed the bison, caribou, musk oxen, horses, and woolly mammoths across the Bering Land Bridge from Siberia. Still, while I'm sitting here sipping my tea, watching the boats, and beyond the boats, the ships go by, I can't help feeling that this bench belongs, however fleetingly, to me, or else that I belong to it. A man in California. I've never met this man, nor seen a picture of him. I've never heard his voice at the far end of the phone, nor glimpsed a sample of his handwriting on a letter or a card. I know that he's tall and that his large hands and broad shoulders used to frighten his son. But when I try to conjure up an image of him, all I manage is a blurry silhouette. All I know about this man are the things his son has told me and the stories I have read in his son's many books, none of which his son has assured me this man will ever read. I haven't read every one of these books myself, to be fair, but I have read a good number of them, and the impression they have left me with, as far as this man is concerned, isn't terribly endearing. I've read about the many Christmases this man's tirades have spoiled, his constant belittling of his delicate young son, and his wife's frequent sobbing behind the locked bedroom door. I've read about his stony silence at the breakfast table, the obligatory kiss imparted to his wife every morning before he slammed the front door behind him, and the bathroom he retained for his exclusive use while the other 5 members of his family had to share one between them. I've read a detailed description of the bomb shelter he built in his backyard in the 60s when his children were small, and a sad aside about the therapy he canceled when it failed to change his teenage son. But surely these are not the kinds of things his son had in mind when I told him last night that I would hold his father in my thoughts today. These things are just details and don't comprise the whole man. I may know a few facts about him, but I don't know who he is. Not even his son, after all, can imagine the young man he once was. A man his wife once wistfully claimed, who loved Shakespeare and Poe and dreamed of becoming an artist someday. But surely some dregs of that dream still drift in the sclerotic heart of this man whose mitral valve is so badly in need of repair today. Before this young man, for that matter, came a boy. Is there anyone alive who remembers that boy? How much of his boyhood this man remembers himself is a question that not even he, I imagine, could answer. But surely the ghost of that boy in short pants, climbing trees, spinning tops in the dust, watching the long, pale arc of a baseball at dusk, still haunts the muscle memory of the company man he became. There's doubtless no one left who remembers this man as a baby, blameless in the cradle, opening and closing tiny fists in the air, watching the shadows of leaves play across a far wall. But shouldn't one try to be fair to this man, to hold at least the shadow of that baby alongside the boy, the young man, and the middle-aged tyrant they became, in any thoughts one might spare for this old man today? And don't his parents and their parents and all the many parents before them still lurk, however deeply buried, in his bone-weary blood? There's no end, it seems, to what I'd have to consider if I hope to do this man justice today. Even if I could conjure every moment of his life, not to mention every moment of his dream life as well, I'll never know this man's feelings or his opinions or how what has happened to him and how the decisions he has made have ushered this frail old man onto a gurney in California today, his eyes closed, his throat dry, his chest rising and falling in ragged rhythm with the machines. I may as well try to hold his heart in my hands. It occurs to me now that I don't even know this man's name. And the last piece I will read is a short one called Man Running. Why is that man running? There's no bus in sight. And yet look, he has crossed the street now. He has passed the bus stop. and he has not slowed down. He is not running quickly, mind you, but he is not walking either. He is clearly in a hurry. Why? It is raining, true, but not hard. And in any case, he has an umbrella. Perhaps he is simply running late. Late for what? He looks too young to have a wife. It's too dark to see clearly, too early in the morning to see much. Now, all I can see are the ghostly soles of his sneakers as they lift from the pavement as he runs. Why is he running? How much longer is he going to be running? And that is the last piece I will read. I am really delighted to be passing the mic now to my student Fatima Eldigair, who I met last year, though it seems like a lifetime ago, and whose voice, when I encountered it in her poems, felt so fully formed and alive with urgency and complexity that I knew right away I was in the presence of a genuine writer. And I really can't wait to hear what she's going to read tonight.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Those were really lovely prose poems. Our next reader, as Suzanne mentioned, is Fatima Eldigair. Fatima is a writer, thinker, and student from Chicago. She recently graduated with a BA in creative writing from the University of Chicago. Her poetry thesis, I Remember Running Into the Arms of a Man Who Wasn't My Daddy, was awarded departmental honors alongside the Elsie Filippi Memorial Prize. Apologies if I mispronounced that. Her poetry has appeared in Apogee Journal, Argo Magazine, and various UChicago publications. Fatima invests in poetry that explores the subterranean complications and oftentimes contradictions of race and sexuality.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Suzanne, for your brilliant writing, as always, and thank you for making my senior year so whole and pushing me on the creative front, on the personal front, and thank you for pushing me in those moments where I absolutely did not want to be pushed. I am forever grateful. Hi, everyone. My name is Fatima Eldigair. My pronouns are she, her, hers. A visual description of me is that I'm a young Black woman with short curly hair that's currently in a half up, half down do. I'm in a green cardigan paired with silver jewelry, and behind me is a series of kind of strange objects, including a heat lamp, a globe, and then plants that look fake, but I swear that they're not. I'm currently on the north side of Chicago, but I've been working on LA time, so I've been perpetually confused. So now let me move into my confusing poems, or some people like to call them complex poems. I used to challenge myself to write as small as possible. Back in the day, I had big goblin handwriting with letters that outstretched their arms way across the boundaries of two infinite notebook lines, which extend imperialistic borders like a cruel prison guard who jails those who are just a bit too cockeyed, a bit too crazy, and a bit too crooked-toothed. My wise curled up like the smile of a devious little djinn. Maybe it's because my auntie told me a story during my prime sexual development years. But once upon a time, she handed money over to a tuk-tuk driver and noticed he had silky goat limbs and pedicured hooves on the gas pedal. And when she told me the story, she was sobbing, and I was crying too. But deep inside my sternum, there was an orchestra of laughter. So perhaps my theory is that all that destabilized guilt transferred to my page, like the ink smudge that stains the side of your pinky. And I used to get beat with the vacuum cord because My mom has said you can't trust people who write like that. Those people are possessed by funk and obsessed with romance and denatured pearls and all the things that are wrong in the Quran. But look, Mama, I see my handwriting all over the masjid walls in Mecca and Medina and on the hennaed palms of Saudi and non-believer girls alike. But the Quran only took one blood clot to bloom out an entire universe. So what is wrong with you? Why is your writing more sprawled than Los Angeles and more complicated than race play and more disappointing than a father who quits out on his daughter because this country is shaped like a prostate and cigarettes cost a record $11 a pack? You know, we all have to go home at one point. And on the long bus ride home across two small towns, united by twilight, but inconsequential in the larger socio-political history of this planet, I write across bumpy roads. I puncture my pen across an innocent page, promising to never be the victim nor the hero, but rather minutia. Second poem is called Skinny Ladies. There are two swan ladies, samurai-like and lilac-hued, quietly waiting in line inside this bleak coffee shop where their bodies exist in cinematic parallelism to mine. I try not to stare or be dramatic because my mama taught me better than callousness, but she also told me that blades of grass grow taller with tender feet trudging near. So I pretend not to gaze, but from the corner of my third eye, I read the lips of a brunette so clearly high from the calm breeze of autumn. She says waking up at dawn is hard, but she wouldn't live her life any other way, and I was shocked at the sinfulness of admitting we have choice. If I had a choice, I would be draped in chinchilla mink right about now. Wait, that doesn't feel right. I want to be naked, butterflying across the Red Sea to a lover who has resettled in a lonely stone cabin, eclipsed by sand. And maybe that journey is still in the cards for me, and maybe it's not these women's fault for occupying the entire dreamscape of problematic female sex fantasies. But I find it harder and harder to envision myself as a descendant of Cleopatra when my ritual consists of wearing sweatpants on a Friday night and binge eating the entire desert ecosystem. And what's the difference between sweatpants and a grave plot? Sex appeal, I suppose, but also dignity, dewy soil, weeping in the gloaming, the smell before rain, middle schoolers tonguing, and cheap chrysanthemums on the edge of rotting. Skinny Ladies Epilogue. I think the three of us could be friends one day, after desperately clawing our way uphill, after our throats are pregnant with rage, after we're pissed, goddamn, we're pissed at the end. The end of the world is just a salty, black, polluted, undrinkable ocean. After the rebirth, after the second rebirth, after the third trimester miscarriage, after brushing our teeth with brandy, after living in the shoes of a psychedelic toad and a slave master, after floating to America in the midst of Malcolm X's murder, after living as a djinn who rides in on a US-ordered Iranian nuclear missile, after living as a tiny speck of prawn caught in between your canines, after the after before, after the color red, after all the ways language fails us, after your father's fake gold tooth, you know the one, only present inside his once-in-a-lifetime smile, after the turn to yours, after the rapture, which is the only time reparations will ever be considered seriously in a democratic presidential debate, after Jesus Christ himself, alhamdulillah, after sitting on the ground of a mud hut, methodically peeling bananas, even though your hands grow withered with each stroke, after our bodies litter the Nile like crumbled, muddy Coke bottles, after my heart, after this poem, after the sheer masochism of being a poet, after admitting I'm crazy and you wouldn't change a thing, after the final rebirth, we breathe in on the count of after, and somehow, or sometime, we metamorphosize into a sparkly hit girl group pop sensation in this post-world world. And my last poem, I remember after the famous Joe Brainerd. I remember last Tuesday morning. I slid on black ice while jogging with my eyes halfway closed. No one saw, but no one helped. It took 3 weeks for the bruise to heal. At least the plum color suited my gold undertones. I remember the blonde black woman on the bus, shrieked of cigarettes in sweaty June. Her smile was a cove of pearls. I remember my 4 daughters crowding around my husband's embalmed corpse, wailing inside the small hallway of a Southern Gothic mosque. I remember my cousin running me over with his car. Son of a bitch. I know he wasn't looking. I know. I remember this white girl laughing at my lynching. I remember I could have been an activist for ethnic cleansing if my fingernails weren't scrubbed so clean. I remember the window overlooking my crib, sunlight brushing my cheeks. Mama orated about Daddy's deadbeat ways, and as the story progressed to nowhere, a trail of grape cigarillo smoke wafted through the curtains. I remember my workshop peers believing I was the I in this poem. I remember no one sat by me on the bus. It was rush hour heading up north, and I was cloaked in a black hoodie. This was before the politics of a black hoodie permeated the headspace of America. I remember Obama meant everything to these people. I remember a sea of soft glazed eyes negating my existence. I remember looking out into the Alabama marshlands and seeing my mangled reflection in the mist. I remember thinking of chicken grease on the regular because Grandma cooked dinner in the morning to save time. I remember smoking under heavy snowfall, wondering if I was indeed the I. I remember when I lost my confidence. It was a suffocating June night, and I was ashamed that my breasts had grown to misshapen grapefruit. All I could do, as part protest and part surrender, was sit on the curb, sweat through my tight cotton bra, and let mosquitoes gnaw at my flesh. I remember plotting to wave the race card like a tattered American flag in Iraqi wind. I remember the afterlife, endless gray shores littered with broken glass and spooks. I cut my phone a crack pipe, and ghost children laughed. I remember after the afterlife, a black girl planting a palm tree in a salt cave. I remember blackberries. I remember plotting bear traps outside my classmates' doorsteps. I remember falling into the black hole of history, and it was just one grand family reunion with barbecue and knockoff Hennessy and predatory uncles and a desperate need to merge into one black psychic force that could stand up against the cruel intergalactic dictator that is amnesia. I remember not understanding what the word praxis meant. I remember swallowing shards of thrifted china during my daily binge praxis. I remember ancestors tisk at my abusive language. I remember when no one had to ask me which sawed-off chunk of Sudan I belonged to. I remember Rumi's blood flows inside me, and that's the reason my love life is senseless. I remember getting knocked up by the military-industrial complex. I remember this old black janitor grabbing me by the ankles, dragging me into the nearby artificial bushes, and slapping me across the face. Child, you worth something. I remember the cafeteria lady with the speech impediment was ecstatic to see me on a downtown street, even though I had no clue who she was. I remember Abdul Halim Hafiz serenading me in a veranda right off the Sudanese Nile. I remember a woman child approaching me after class saying, "I'm sorry, that was totally unfair." I remember slapping her across the face, then politely asking, "Then why didn't you say anything, Chelsea?" I remember my poem shining like diamond grills in the lush mouth of a Southside nigga. I remember someone accusing me of abusing the word black. I remember a black man being hunted down like rare game and missing a funeral. I remember all the synonyms for Ahmed Arbery. I remember never asking to be delegated to townie civil rights activists. I remember before remember. I remember running into the arms of a man who wasn't my daddy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatima. And now I would like to introduce our next reader, CM Burroughs. CM Burroughs is Associate Professor of Poetry at Columbia College Chicago. She is the author of 2 collections, The Vital System and Master Suffering, both from Tupelo Press. Burroughs has been awarded fellowships and grants from Yaddo, the MacDowell Colony, Jurassic Foundation, Virginia Center for the Creative Arts, and Cave Canem Foundation. She has received commissions from the Studio Museum of Harlem and the Warhol Museum to create poetry in response to art installations. Her poetry has appeared in journals and anthologies, including Poetry Magazine, Callaloo, Jubilat, Plowshares, Volt, Best American Experimental Writing Anthology, and the Golden Shovel Anthology, New Poems Honoring Gwendolyn Brooks. Burroughs has been a featured reader and has given lectures, workshops, and readings across America and internationally.
Thank you very much. So, my name is CM. I am cisgender female. My pronouns are she, her, and I am wearing an ivory colored silk dress, very thin gold earrings, and there's a Flora Hammond print on the wall right behind me. I'm debuting mini poems from my new book coming out in January of 2021 tonight, so I hope you enjoy them. Body as a juncture of almost. It is female. It is girl parts, ready to suffer, predilection for, ready to try to live. I tell it, how I became what I am, not forgiving of myself, but forgetting the irrational start. Why should I have wanted so much as to threaten my being? Refusal to recall what I was, the impossibility of this, for 3 months, captured in a clear box. Look, the clear box. My trying to be, self that I own her at least. 2. Joy is a syllable down the causeway yet unlit. The speakers keep saying it is so. Argue, say, capture her and her in the midst of gesture, between desire and satisfaction. See stutter of woman, breasts and bone between wanting to have and having. The irrevocably wrote discomfort between. 3. I want you to understand what this bracket feels like. Be an active participant in the difficult narrative of body. Fit your body into thee. 4. Are you reading what I am handing you? My body hinged to the other, hyphen. Do you think about her kneecaps and arched spine, her navel and clavicle, her whole? Do you want to look inside? 5. I don't want you to hurt, but watch her understand what it is. Watch her arc through pain to, is it pleasure? Something from which she doesn't want to run. Stay put in, meter of organ and sense. What now it feels like to be touched, like this, again, like this. 6. Watch her, look at me, so much a woman now, parabola and experience, muscles at ease with want and its yield. You will need so much empathy to feel her feeling. Incidents for the forgettery. After I scour the kitchen to the alleys of the stove, wring and hang the wash, disappear the garbage, bleach the bath, perfect the bed, its strict corners, he says, it's nice to have another adult around, which resonates to the effect of, you are particular skin I want to assuage, as in, won't you stay with me forever? What I mishear is the objective hue of his voice, its inflection signifying the wonder he holds for a woman's functional use. I am welcome for my utility, how I might serve, my southern grace having grown me toward the necessity of a tool. Basic training for my father. I learned to clean house at age 10 under the instruction of a US Marine, my father, teaching me that a job worth doing was a job worth doing well. Task turned meditation, my introversion, summoned space and redundant duties of house, ritual rescuing of counters under the day's crumb, esophageal kicks of the Hoover in hand, hypnotic polishing of torchères, side tables and talons from the hands and feet of mahogany chairs. Lastly, I could sit and survey my balancing song. It was gratifying. I could set my mind to changing a thing, and it would change. Supposition for my mother. Let us admit there has been division enough. Our teeth, its simplest actors. Let us admit the past, our translucent bodies' betrayal, good nature's good windows. We were, weren't we, movable, series of solid matters sected. Midlife and mothered, historical warnings hum, don't split the pole, so as not to forget oneself, so as not to be beguiled by the menagerie present. For any seer, bisection percusses elemental, tension then yoke attention to see oneself and one's companion starkly on this side of the divining pine. If you split the pole, better to graft your error, better to write your route than to risk misfortune's unrelenting map. For your mother and her mother and hers, for the lot of us, the clot of us regarding the unsteady water in familial gourds at our feet. The unbeliever. For the first time from my mouth, I say, pray for us. Assuming she gospels in a God and offering I do too. Trundled syllable, I am a con, cowed by the brute strength belief takes, sight unseen. Grave bravery to count on invisible, untouchable myth. Pray for us. For my most shallow pocket, knowing I need her faith to carry me. And who is it that trusts a whole body bears us out, its largest hands marbling unbelievers under multilingual incantations? Who is it that harbors kindling for the pastor's devoted mouth, mirrors the evergreen hunger of congregations' hands, giving up the body to be taken wholly elsewhere? Truth be told, there's no proof, just people born back from half-light, from the optic nerve's most mischievous macular halos. There are no good answers for trauma, only he'll never give you more than you can bear, which is a bald-faced lie. He does, every day, failings too cacophonous to count. There's no good reason, if he is to be believed, he won't sweep his want across the anathema to set it right. When I was writing this book, Master Suffering, I started having conversations with friends about spirituality and religion, interesting slip. And I called this series of poems God Letter. God Letter. If I could think of him as formless, all energy and myth, I could believe better. Dear Van, thank you for saying that spirituality explains what science can't. This makes sense to me, mostly because I needed language that worked outside figures mimicking the human form, i.e., God and Jesus. Does spirituality exist at the end of knowledge? It was you who told me Einstein didn't believe in a personal God, but in Spinoza's God who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists, which makes me think of nature poetry, how harmony, to borrow the word, can occur. And I know the writer is God, but skipping that, I am bowed by Einstein permitting himself multitudes, space to critique one belief and occupy another. I've never understood religion as liberated, but as a rigid order of ritual, and the force of him is powerful in the Baptist church where I grew up. Van, what I find important is your desire to learn and your openness to spirituality. It is lush and teaches me to be a scholar of belief, an informed believer, if I should come to that. God Letter. Do I have to dress up or can I wear jeans? Dear Joaquin, casual Sunday is a plus. Can a woman be fully present in heels? Remember the other day at the shops, we saw the t-shirt that read blessed across the front. I know you picked it up for me as a joke, but it made me pause. I think I am blessed in the way I understand people to mean it, having good fortune. But this is where faith messes with my clean concept, because practicing Christians don't believe blessings come out the clear blue sky. So here's God again, all up in the Kool-Aid. I'm dating myself, but I mean that he gets in the way of spiritual minimalism. He is at once contained and uncontainable, which intellectually is hard to understand. So being blessed must require that one acts in such a way that presses God to bestow blessings, which isn't the same thing as good fortune. But I want to believe that people are saying, "You have such good fortune. I hope for good fortune too," because it means that no one is preaching at me like, "You have good God, God. Father God, I hope he Gods for us to go with God," etc. And my final poem of the night, To Be Saved. The signs begin incrementally. Smallly they plumb, then dilate under the skin as egg, so that we are forced to acknowledge each incident, sometimes very human, the body shepherding itself to the bathroom in the night and back again, gasping where a toe smashes into the bed's simple feet. For a moment, we wake to radiant pain opening as pure sound, sometimes very metal. There is worry that proliferates like operatic throats. Signs happen such that we're always gasping and awakening. Thank you. And I want to say thank you very much to the Poetry Foundation for this Open Door series particularly. It's really wonderful when established writers can bring their emerging writer students along, those who are just particularly skilled, and give them a stage such as the Poetry Foundation, because it has so many lovers of the foundation and the magazine, etc. And I'm really glad that my student Chad Morgan could be with me on this stage. He's a clever, clever poet, and I remember long classroom days of poring over poems with him. So thank you very much, and Chad Morgan is next.
Thank you so much. Those were really lovely poems, CM, and your words are very kind. Now I'd like to introduce Chad Morgan. Chad Morgan's work has appeared in the Adroit Journal, Columbia Poetry Review, Analecta, and elsewhere. He lives in Chicago, where he recently graduated with his MFA in poetry at Columbia College, Chicago. Please welcome Chad.
Hello. Thank you for that introduction. That was wonderful. And thank you, CM, for asking me to read tonight. I'm very excited. And thank you, just to echo what CM just said, to the Poetry Foundation for having something like this. So my name is Chad Morgan. My pronouns are he, him. By way of visual description, I will say that I am of Black and Irish ancestry. I am in my apartment, in my bedroom in Chicago. I am wearing sequins, which I decided upon at the very last minute. And I think that probably covers everything. I'm going to read a few poems that I think kind of feel, at least to me, like where my mind is at right now. The first poem that I'm going to read, I should say, owes kind of a formal debt to a few poems by Alex Dimitrov in his collection Begging for It. So this poem is called Self-Portrait as Tom Ripley in The Talented Mr. Ripley. When I enter, he is bestride the saxophone, playing DePaul, more shadow than man before the tall windows and the ceaseless Neapolitan bay. I begin by collecting our dross of used glasses, empty bottles, his fiance's red bikini top, then proffer my loyalty like tithes, eager disciple even as he shouts. How is it that everything feels possible here? On the train, I breathe in his lapel and do the thing with my neck that merges our reflections in the window glass, blurring our distinctions, twinning us. Oh, to be his wily double, malignant reciprocal. For now, all that we say is to say something else, something more and truer. Questo è la faccia dei Dicky. Questa è la mia faccia. The war's been over for years and we have his father's money. I wear his clothes to know how he feels beneath them, to be the only one in the entire world. The second poem that I'm going to read is called Hot Child in the City. We should go somewhere posh to smoke our cigarettes and take people's money. One of us can cause a diversion while the other picks pockets. I have to say I'm attracted to the idea. Otherwise, I am positively inundated with options for self-description and attendant corporations hot to sell them back to me. And all my money's doing stand-up, and my boss is on my case again, of course, not to mention my nerves. But on the phone with Janae, I am sufficiently wry about everything, and she laughs at all my jokes. She lives in Michigan again, and I can imagine. Looking around, I know there's nothing particularly funny about any of this, actually, unless you're into that sort of thing. The city's laggard melt, the piles of dirty laundry, Mrs. Doubtfire on HBO, a man's hand on my jaw, but otherwise no identifying features, and nothing by way of explanation, of course. You make your own sense or you get used to it. Like bad wallpaper or plumbing in an apartment you can stand because you know it's only temporary. When the air conditioner malfunctions, I palm my head and declaim against who or what? God, I guess, given my upbringing. But even if you don't believe, you have to admit that life has a tendency to seem very intentionally, almost sentiently bad a lot of the time. Or maybe I'm just making bad choices. I guess some people do seem content. Naturally, I am suspicious of anyone who seems to have their shit together or their student loans. Otherwise, I lie in bed at night and imagine my landlord when he's spending my money. His face is just a big evil smile erupting maniacal laughter. He's careless with it, my money, but I can see it brings him great pleasure to spend. Then it is 8 a.m. and already too hot to go for a walk. I catch the fan's breeze and look at my phone. I avoid the app that tells me how much money is in my bank account and the one that tracks my credit score. Otherwise, I feel so automated, I search myself for a power switch. It's there somewhere, but I never find it. This next poem is called I Honestly Don't Think I Can Stand It. I am so deeply regretful. Will I die trying to decipher the secret meaning of everything? New housing developments, your jawline. I recognize life for the lonely hurl toward nothing that it is, but this doesn't make me any freer. I spend so much of my time making money for other people. I understand so little about my pay stub, the news, the United States, its constitution. Dearest, I feel certain I am going mad again. Dearest, our bodies are useless, utterly useless. Like this, we carry on, all our clumsy patterns, our gauche affairs, all thoroughly inelegant. When it is still too cold, a mourning dove alights on my balcony railing, down-breasted, nonplussed, one marble eye returning a shard of taupe sky to the taupe sky. And then, yeah, finally, this final poem that I'll read for you is called So Far the New Year's No Different from the Old. Thaw still in the planet's coldest regions, fires ringing entire continents, lunatics on every screen, frothing white promises and dog whistles. I was very stoned when I explained to Beth about the end times. I told her earthquakes and famines, confusion of seasons, nations in anguish, war everywhere and rumors of it. It was the weather got us talking, the freaky weather, too warm for January, Australia up in flames. It doesn't mean anything that there are Christians who believe that climate change is a sign of Christ's second coming. The media call them climate change deniers, but this isn't really accurate as it suggests that they deny the existence of climate change, when more broadly what they deny is humanity's active role in exacerbating the crisis, and that there's anything we can do to curb its effects doesn't matter. Proof only that one's truth is usually contingent upon one's personal interpretation of the data. I can understand the sentiment when people say, can't we all just get along? But I would rather write this on my eyeballs than hear that man garble through another live press conference. If he's going to destroy democracy, he can't have television too. Oh, television. When I was a kid, people talked all the time about the ozone layer and its many holes, but I haven't heard anyone mention it in, I swear to God, 20 years. I still don't know exactly what it is, and I could never really visualize it. I guess maybe it's gone now completely. One of the scariest movies ever is Fern Gully. Its villain, the pollutant-loving Hexus, a fluid black quasi-humanoid smoke figure burlesquing through the rainforest, oddly sexual, singing, filthy brown acid rain pouring down like egg chow mein, voiced by Tim Curry, siphoning life out of everything and loving it. Horrible, just horrible. I had my mother stitch a Save the Rainforest patch to my book bag. I saved my allowance for a month and donated it to the Rainforest Foundation Fund. It was no place I desired to go, but I did think it should be there. If you Google, is the planet dying, you will generate millions of results, none of them comforting. I'm mad because I want all the trappings of modernity, but none of the hassle. And recycling is so complicated, they sent us instructions in the mail, illustrated instructions. One of the saddest movies ever is The Land Before Time. In the wake of environmental disaster, a group of orphaned dinosaurs set off on a journey to find the Great Valley, a fabled, fecund paradise amidst global famine. Traumatic for a child, the murderous sharp tooth, blood mad and flesh hungry, Littlefoot's dying mother, her limp long neck. Elsewhere, Essex Hempel, also dead, predicting my life. I have a cat and 1,000 poems. This morning, I realized that if I were to die tomorrow, I would leave behind basically nothing at all of value, and Shane would have to find someone to cover my shifts at the bookstore. Thank you very much again. So much fun and such an honor to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Chad. And I just want to say one more big thank you to all of tonight's readers for virtually being with us and gracing us with all of their amazing work. I also want to say thank you to everyone watching. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.